Good afternoon and welcome back for another edition of our Before the Snap program here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As you guys can see, I'm not Jacob Ray. He's not here today. It's me, Nathan. You guys are stuck with me today, but that'll be all right. We're so excited to have you guys joining us as we kick off this 2023 semester, this spring semester, with a great guest that we have for you guys today for Before the Snap. If you've watched the program before, you know what you're in store for. You know that you're going to get to see the behind the scenes workings of what makes the game of football and really sports in general really tick with all the work that goes in behind the scenes. We've got a special guest today. And if this is your first time, we're excited that you've taken the time out of your day to join us. Before we get to our guest, though, here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, our mission is to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And we really believe this program, you will hear some of those values that the game teaches from our special guest, and just how she implements those into her day-to-day work with what she does. I want to thank a couple of people and groups before we get started. First and foremost, I need to thank our guest, Taylor Abbott. Taylor, thank you for taking some time out of your day on a Friday to be with us here on Before the Snap and answer questions from our students. Second, I'd like to thank teachers, administrators, professors, whoever it may be that's kind of promoted this program for us on behalf of us. Thank you for putting this in front of your students, allowing your students to be a part of this program and join in and hopefully really learn the inner workings of a career in sports, and they can really start to network and build their own personal, professional network. I want to thank our students. Without the students, the program doesn't run. We could sit here and Taylor and I could have this conversation back and forth. We could talk about our career, but Taylor and I could have that conversation on our own. We don't have to do it on here on YouTube Live for the students to hear. We sit basically right next to each other where our desks are at work every day. So we want to thank the students for joining in and watching the program. I encourage the students, please submit your questions. Let us know where you're watching it from, where you attend school. We want to give a shout out to your schools, your universities, and submit your questions so that Taylor can answer those. And, maybe I'll even give my 2 cents on a couple of those questions that you guys submit throughout the program. So thank you for watching, and we're excited to hear your questions. With that being said, though, today we're lucky, we're thankful, we're grateful to have Taylor Abbott with us. And a little bit about her. Taylor is the Black College Football Hall of Fame manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you might already be confused, Black College Football Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Taylor can explain that to you guys. She'll do that with you. Previously, though, she worked in the events and tourism department here at the Hall of Fame. Her role is to support and share the stories of the football greats from historically Black colleges and universities, while being a connection between the Black College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame and beyond. Taylor is a Northeast Ohio native who has a BFA in dance from Marymount Manhattan College and an MS in sport management from Columbia University. With a background in sports and entertainment, Taylor has had the pleasure of working with some industry leaders, including the New York City Parks Department, the Houston Astros, and the Walt Disney Company. With that, I'm honored and excited to welcome our special guest, Taylor Abbott. Taylor, thanks for being a part of the program today.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I look forward to answering some questions and telling you more about what I do and my story within sport.
Awesome. Well, Taylor, thank you again. I think I've said it numerous times already, but thanks for taking time. I know we kind of had to twist your arm a little bit to convince you to be on the program, but I think you've got a great story. I think the students will really glean something from your experience. And let's kind of just start with what is like that 10,000 foot view of what your day-to-day job is like as the Black College Football Hall of Fame manager here at the Hall?
Yes, so the Black College Football Hall of Fame was founded in 2009 by Doug Williams and James Shack Harris, who were successful both in their college careers at Grambling State University and then went professional within the NFL. And in 2016, the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Black College Hall of Fame came together to create a partnership and have the permanent home here in Canton, Ohio. So my job is to sort of build that relationship and keep it going. We have employees that are here with us here in Canton, Ohio, that are Black College Football Hall of Fame, as well as elsewhere. So it's being that bridge, bringing those connections, helping to create the museum that will be the permanent home here in Canton, Ohio, as well as support any way we can within the whole Pro Football Hall of Fame.
So can you explain to us then, Taylor, in your opinion, why is it so important that, here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there's 32 teams, there's teams that are defunct, but why is it important for us to kind of step up and be a home for the Black College Football Hall of Fame, and your own personal opinion with that?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's an important story that the Pro Football Hall of Fame shares, because for a while there was a period of time where within the NFL that there was that segregation and not all could be included. So going to an HBCU was really their chance to play and continue their passion in football. And then when those color barriers were broken by some amazing football players that are now part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, these people were getting the attention. And still to this day, we see that there are some amazing talents that come from HBCUs that we should continue to share their stories. Just because we are now integrated in one does not mean that those stories can't be influential and motivating to others out there.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the stories. I know, just having, in my experience, being able to work with some of the greats, the Aeneas Williams, the Robert Brazils, the guys that have attended these HBCUs, and you hear some of their rich stories and really how they had to overcome so much adversity. It's inspiring for us today, regardless of the access that people have or don't have today. You can still learn and be inspired from what they had to persevere, for sure. So I agree with you. It's an important story, and we're proud and happy to tell that story here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But let's kind of shift it here a little bit now. Career based. Let's think about your career, how you got to where you're at today. And again, I want to encourage the students, submit your questions. We'll get you guys involved with the program as much as possible. So Taylor, can you tell us, for a student who might be in high school, a lot of our viewers are typically college students, but we do have some high school students that might chime in and watch. For a student that might be in high school, they're about to get into college, they're thinking about what they're going to want to do. How would you advise them to make sure that they get a major, they get a career field that they're truly passionate about?
Yeah, so for me, when I was in high school, I always knew I wanted to dance. That was where I saw myself, was going into dance, but I was surrounded by people who were in all different industries, especially my parents' friends and coworkers that I would talk to. And then in my high school, our senior year of high school, you had to go and do sort of an internship somewhere else. And I spoke with one of my mom's good friends, and I said, I would love to do it with you. And she was a sports agent and still is to this day. And that's where my passion for sports grew, was surrounding myself at that young age. So I think even if it's something you don't want to do, I think it's talking to people, hearing the stories. Maybe you assume you hear a job title and you know what it is. You might hear, oh, I'm a photographer, and you think, oh, you just go around, take pictures. But it's like, maybe they travel the world for National Geographic and they take all these exciting things. So really, I would say talking to people, surrounding yourself with different types of people to figure out what that is. Don't be afraid to try things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then try your next thing. And follow your passions too. It always helps.
Yeah, for sure. I love doing this with people that we work with. We've had several people, Michelle Norris, Jameer Howerton, several people that work with us here at the Hall of Fame, because I get to learn new things that I don't even know about you. Like, I did not know that you got to kind of intern and shadow a sports agent, that was a family friend of yours. That's amazing. And how it kind of ignited that passion for you. I love this. Can you tell us, and this is kind of a loaded question, but I'll appreciate the vulnerability. Can you tell us the best part of your job and the worst part of your job for our students to kind of think about that?
Yeah. So for me, the best part is I like routine, but I like not predictability. So I like that when I come in every day, maybe one day I'm doing these sort of programs with the education department, then maybe the next day I'm planning an event, and that every day is a little different. The worst part about that almost ties into that. It's that then you have to be quick and flexible. Again, I like routine, but I don't like predictability. So having to be able to adjust in a minute, sometimes be like, well, I have to get this done and this done, and finding those priorities. But at the same time, that's thrilling and exciting and makes the job what it is.
Yeah, for sure. So we got our first student question. So I'm going to go there. We got a student from Appalachian State down in North Carolina with a question, and it's not necessarily directly pertaining to your career, but we'll do our best to answer their question. They're curious, how do we acquire the things that go on display both in the Hall of Fame, but also we have a portion of the museum dedicated to the Black College Football Hall of Fame. So maybe you can speak to some of the relationships that you've had with some of the Black Jackets, those guys that are in the Black College Football Hall of Fame, and how we get their artifacts and then we preserve them here. And then I can chime in if there's nothing that, if I feel like you missed something.
Please chime in. So I know with our the Black College Football Hall of Fame, we are continuing to build that. We are fortunate that we have some Black College Football Hall of Famers that are Pro Football Hall of Famers. So sort of getting those things are easy or easier. But it's, we want to tell their story. So if they have things that might be of value that, sometimes it's in their attic or basement, or a university has it, and we're willing to take it and we'll preserve it. So it can be for Black College Football Hall of Fame. We are still growing our database, so it's exciting when new things come in or we hear new stories. And sometimes it could just be film. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's tangible. It could be, oh my gosh, look at this new amazing picture that we found in our archives. And we sort of just use it that way. But for us, we just get it from the schools, the players, any sort of organization that might keep those archives for us, and then they'll send them to us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what Taylor's alluding to and talking about, we have an archive for every person that's played one game in the National Football League. So a lot of these greats that played at HBCUs, well, I mean, a lot of them went on and had NFL careers. So we've started to create, an archive for those guys there. So the tangible 2D artifacts, it's 30 plus. I don't know if you know the exact number, 30 plus of our Hall of Famers are in the Black College Football Hall of Fame. So we have artifacts on those guys, obviously, and then we're kind of building out that collection. Sometimes things come in on loan, but I mean, we have millions of documents. She mentioned photos and things like that. So it's something we take very seriously. When we say our mission is to honor the greatest of the game and to preserve its history, that's something that's near and dear to us here at the Hall, and we take very seriously. So that was a great question from one of our students. Let's keep it rolling. We think about your career. You've had a lot of different experience. Can you kind of tell us the biggest difference that you've seen working in the special events and kind of coordinating some stuff with Hall of Fame experiences to now working, more directly with the Black College Football Hall of Fame and everything that entails?
Yes. So when I was with Hall of Famers, the experiences and events and tourism, it definitely was more of a narrower. I still talked with every department and interacted with every department and outside vendors. But now it's a broader scope and sort of more responsibility. So whereas when I was with events, I was solely focused on what would have an impact on the event. So maybe I was dealing with the transportation to the event, where people would park at the event, what the event looks like. Now it's not just one event, it's the whole thing. Where are my people staying? What are they eating? What else are they doing? What other activities? Maybe coordinating with the mayor's office or the health department. So it's a broader thing. It's very similar. It was a skill set that I brought in that was extremely beneficial. And then now I'm just adding to it all the other things that are wider encompassing.
So you mentioned events. Obviously, that was a big part of your job initially, but I know just working with you that there's several events that you guys get to help facilitate and put on with the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic weekend every year around Labor Day here in Canton.
Yes.
What's an event? I love asking this question. Is there an event that you've got to work that, like, when you just step back, it's just been super meaningful to you because of the impact that it's had, that maybe you can speak to that experience that you've had?
Yeah, so one during Classic Weekend, one event I always enjoy is the gospel concert. It's a free concert within the community, and it can be a long day. The day starts usually at 6 a.m. for me. So when the concert starts at 5 p.m., and you finally get to sit back and take a step back and see people of all different races, religions come together and just enjoy a concert together within our community. It's like, okay, this was worth the lack of sleep and the running around. It's a moving day.
So, we're getting more student questions. That's why I'm kind of, you're probably like, why is he not listening to me while I'm answering
You're
this?
good.
But we're getting more student questions. So I'm going to go straight into those because some of these are really good. This is from a student from St. Joe's over in Philly. Taylor, what steps would you advise our students to take trying to break into the sport industry? What would be kind of some of the steps you would give them?
Yeah, so I would say don't be afraid to network. I obviously transitioned from being in entertainment into sports, so I can understand that trouble that there can be. Don't be afraid to network, connect to people. If you're in school, talk to the athletic department, talk to athletes, reach out. If you're part of a sport, you talk to people in other sports, ask your professors, an intern somewhere. Don't be afraid to make those connections and network, because that's will ultimately be your peer group. And I know networking can be hard, so feel free to reach out to me. Just as hard it is for you to reach out, sometimes it's hard for us to figure out how to respond back to you in the way that we think you want to. So find that connection on what it is. Maybe it's something that I said resonate, and that sort of opens the door for a dialogue. Maybe it's something totally unrelated. You're like, oh, I have the same last name as you. Maybe we're related somehow, and you sort of crack a joke to break that barrier. But just network to get in, because with us in the industry, I haven't met someone that doesn't want to help and support others coming into this industry.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think that when you finally do get in, you see that there's just great people that want to help. They want to support students because they remember what it was like.
Yes.
So if you can just kind of just swallow that pill and you can just break that awkwardness and begin the networking process, it'll really help you get a long way. And really, we hope that Before the Snap can kind of be a vehicle that helps you do that. We've posted in the YouTube comments. Go ahead, you can connect with Taylor directly on LinkedIn. She'll do her best to respond to everybody that sends her a message.
Yes, I will.
There's a way to connect with us here, the youth and education team. You can email us directly. So we would love to be a resource and just help you guys as you're trying to grow your individual careers and you're looking to break into the sport industry. Our next question is from a student at Western Governors University. Curious, where would you recommend, Taylor, the best places to look for job postings for sports? What have you seen in your experience?
Yeah, so one of the great resources that I had used for sports-specific jobs was Teamwork Online. All of those jobs are sort of sports-centric. If you're at your university, feel free to go to your career services department if you have one, and maybe they can help guide you. But, if there's a specific, league or franchise that you are interested in, just follow their websites as well, even see who's might be the person that works within that department and create that connection so that you are top of mind when they have an opening. But definitely for me, Teamwork Online.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Teamwork Online, the Hall of Fame has done a good job between Teamwork, Indeed, on our own website. That's always a great place to kind of start when you're looking. It can be a little tedious. You might have to do a little bit of the legwork to try to find the job, but I mean, that just kind of shows your commitment level and how much you really, really want to work in the sports industry. Let's think a little bit back to your experience. And we actually got a question from a student that'll kind of cue me up for my follow-up. This is a student that attends Akron, so local. What was
Yep.
your best experience in college that kind of helped prepare you for your career that you have today?
So I would say I will go to my grad school because that was more focused in sports. I went to a program that was very hands-on, which is what I loved. And I had to take a sponsorship and sales class, and we literally had to pitch an idea and try to do a naming rights for a stadium and all these things. And I was like, I don't want to do sponsorship and sales. And now I'm here in this job, and it's such an integral part in what I'm doing with the Black College Football Hall of Fame that I feel like I already understand and have a great skill set that I learned. And those teachers nurtured me in a way that let me succeed. And knowing that they're like, no, there's ways to use this that might not be the way that is in the classroom that we're teaching you that will be beneficial for you in events or in marketing or what other, graphic design even, that skill set can translate. So I think having that class that felt so uncomfortable for me is now something I use a lot in my everyday life.
I think that's amazing that you're able to take an experience where you really didn't enjoy the coursework that much in the moment, but now you reflect back and you're like, wow, that really did prepare me for what I'm doing day to day. And speaking to some of your previous experience, what's something maybe you learned? I read in your bio, and I was joking with you before we went live, I didn't know that you worked with the Astros. What was that experience like? Being with a major league club, what's something maybe you learned in that experience that, just kind of helped you grow as a person?
Yeah, so I worked with them during their spring training when they used to be in Orlando, Florida, because I was down there working at Disney as well. And I was on their sort of like the street team marketing during the game. And one of the things I had to do was to walk up to people and say, hey, would you be interested in doing this promotion? And I would say before that, I'm an introvert. So just walking up to someone as they're trying to buy a hot dog was not something I looked forward to. And speaking in public was something that I was not comfortable with. But being in that job, if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't have said okay to be on before the snap today, because it just encouraged me to find comfort in my voice and what makes me different and be okay with hearing no, I don't want to do that. And you just move on to the next person.
Well, I want to thank the Astros personally, because we're excited that you're on Before the Snap. And if it's because of them that we got you, then we can all, look past the Astros and their scandals and that type of thing. We can be Astros fans today because they got us Taylor for Before the Snap. You mentioned, though, you were in Orlando and you were working with Disney. So I would be remiss if I didn't get to ask you, what was that Disney experience like? We are the Hall of Fame, Before the Snap. We're thinking sports, but I have to imagine that experience with Disney benefits you in your work now working in sports.
Yeah, I worked at Disney in a couple different capacities, but each time it's one of the big things it's everything's so fast paced and quick moving. You sort of have to make decisions on the fly and be okay if the decision wasn't the perfect decision in that moment, and going back and learning on it later rather than being like, well, what if this is wrong? What if something else would be the better choice to make? At that moment, doing what you feel is right, going with accepting and knowing your gut feeling might be perfectly fine, and then adjusting later, talking about it with peers, learning from a mistake rather than feeling like you have to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, having to make those decisions on the fly is something that you definitely need to be able to do working in the sport industry. And I've never visited Disney, so maybe I'll need to get connected with you and your contacts to get a trip. But I imagine that you need those skills, like you said, working for Disney and the parks and the cruises and all that good stuff that they offer. Yes. A very specific question we got from a student, again, from Appalachian State, from App State here. Is the Black College Football Hall of Fame selection process the same? Is it similar to the Pro Football Hall of Fame selection process? Can you kind of answer that for them?
Yeah, it is pretty similar. So there is a criteria to be a Hall of Famer within the Black College Football Hall of Fame, and there is a selection committee just like the Pro Football Hall of Fame has. So they do the steps of narrowing it down and then finally coming up with the same decision. So it's a very similar process. I would say they were probably partially inspired by how the Pro Football Hall of Fame has perfected it in its years. and use that as a guide to get there. They do obviously like to hear what other people think in their early stages, because especially with Black College Football Hall of Fame, sometimes it's just word of mouth and hearing those stories, because there might not be the records going way back in the day. But the process overall to get from hearing about some guy to finally being a Black College Football Hall of Famer is a very similar process.
Can you explain, for our audience as well, here at the Hall of Fame, we're getting ready to announce our new class of 2023 here at NFL Honors right before the Super Bowl. So we're excited about that. We've got our 15 finalists and then a couple of special categories with seniors and coaches that'll be considered as well there with those finalists. But and that's been whittled down. You talked about the process there where there's 25 semifinalists, and then there was like 120 people that they were considered before the semifinalists, and a whole list of names before that. It's a year-round process. Can you explain, though? Everyone expects the Hall of Fame's class here around the Super Bowl. They know that our enshrinement takes place in August with the NFL season kicking off, the first NFL preseason game. Can you kind of explain, when the Black College Football Hall of Fame's class is going to be announced and kind of how they're honored throughout the year a little bit, kind of their calendar of events?
Yeah, so our class of 2023 is actually already announced, so feel free to go either on the Pro Football website or Black College website to see some great, amazing football players. So we announced before the holidays, and then in February in New Orleans is the HBCU Legacy Bowl, which brings in some graduating seniors from all the different HBCUs together. It's kind of like an all-star game, and that will be their first gathering together of all of the new class, and they'll get to meet each other. We'll get to all meet one another. And then we do their induction ceremony in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame in June. And that's, again, a big celebration. All Hall of Famers are welcome, and friends and families, teammates from both college years and professionally will come in. So it's a fun event where we talk to them, have a conversation with them, and induct them into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. And then in September, they're all invited to Canton for our Classic, which is where we will reveal their plaques that will be hanging in the museum. So it's kind of a full year calendar of celebrating and honoring them with things and moments sprinkled in throughout.
Yeah, for sure. And I love to hear just the collaboration between, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Black College Football Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame, with the Legacy Bowl, the NFL is kind of involved in that. All these different entities working together to preserve this story, to tell these stories and this history. It's really powerful to kind of see that take place. So thanks for kind of explaining that, because I know sometimes for me, I get a little lost with their calendar events and our calendar events, and I'm sure some of our viewers kind of feel the same way. But let's jump back into our students' questions. We got one from the University of Illinois, a student curious. What types of internship opportunities do we have here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame? People that have worked with you, maybe specifically in the Black College Football Hall of Fame space, or you could speak to a larger sense, the summer internship opportunities that are had here at the Hall.
Yes, so within the Black College Football Hall of Fame here in Canton, Ohio, we have a fellow that we hire every year who's a graduate from an HBCU, and it's kind of, I like to treat it as like an education stuff. You get to work in every department, and rather than, going to grad school, or you could have gone to grad school, this is another way to learn very hands-on. It's a year-round internship. But then also at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we have summer interns for our enshrinement. They're in all different departments. And even if someone is, education, will get an intern with that, they still help with the Black College Football Hall of Fame things as well, and promoting that. Or marketing will still work and market the Classic that's happening later in the summer.
Yeah. And we have close to a dozen different interns that work here at the Hall of Fame throughout the summer. It's a wide range of departments. The fellowship program is great there, working with the Black College Football Hall of Fame. I know in our department, education, we hire an intern, marketing hired interns, sponsorship hires interns, the archives, the museum, football information, they hire interns. So there's several different opportunities. We're pretty far into that process. We're getting close to making some hires there for the summer. So if you're a student that has a couple of years left of school, a lot of times in November, those will get posted November, December, and you can apply for our summer internship program. But if you're looking now, you're a little bit too late to jump in with what we have to offer. But definitely love the question and love the curiosity, trying to grow and look at the different opportunities that might be out there. Next question I have for you. You've mentioned a couple times you did go get a master's degree.
Yes.
Why was that important for you? I know some students do, some don't. I've never went and got one. I've considered it, but I haven't. Why was it important for you, though, Taylor, to make sure that you had a master's with where you were at in your career?
Yes, so for me, it was important for a couple reasons. So like we mentioned earlier, I have a BFA in dance. So one of the things was learning the skills I would need when I would want to transition into sports. I also used it as a networking tool. I went to school in New York, so I knew that being just in that location alone would introduce me to some amazing people and opportunities. So it was growing in the skill set and my knowledge in sports in general beyond what I had at that moment, as well as just growing my network. Those were the two big deciding points.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, experience, you can never have too much experience in my mind. And then building that network, we've already talked about how critical and how important that is. So definitely a huge benefit for you getting your master's. And it for some students, that is the answer. For some students, that's not. You kind of got to weigh your own scenario and look at the options that you have and make a just gut decision, your best decision for sure. We got another student question I want to go to here from San Francisco State University, so the West Coast here.
Yes.
You've got to look at resumes, I'm sure, different jobs you've had. What makes a resume stand out to you? What can we advise the students when they're trying to build their resume? And then a two-parter here. Does the major that the students have really matter that much at the end of the day? So resume, how's it stand out? And then does the major matter?
So when I look at a resume, I like to see, I want it to be descriptive. So rather than saying I raised money for the community fundraiser, I rather see I raised over $300,000, whatever the amount is. I'd like to see those specifics because that's something I can grasp and hold on to and understand it easier. So for me, getting into those specifics are really helpful. In terms of a major, I think if you can translate it to what it is you are pursuing, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm a dance major. I took other classes, but being a dance major meant I had to be organized because I had to remember a dance I learned 3 years ago later. So I knew I had a great memory and that I can remember things. I knew that I was quick on my feet and organized. I knew I was creative minded. So it's finding those ways to manipulate what that degree is into what it is that you're trying to pursue and making it clear to those who you're applying to.
Yeah, I love how you use the word kind of manipulate what your major is and your experiences are to show that you have the characteristics for what they're looking for. Because I think so often you really just got to think about how can I sell myself best here? And I was going to ask a question, but you kind of already told us, how does your dance experience help you in your work today? But you talked about, you had to be someone that had a strong memory to remember the different routines and that type of thing. Quick on your feet, obviously, you're on your feet a lot dancing. And then you talk about just the work ethic required to be a dancer at the caliber that you had, that you were doing it. Like all of those translate into what you're doing today. And for students, there's all types of experiences that you can translate and show work ethic, commitment. And really at the end of the day, that's what employers are looking for. A lot of the on-the-job skills, they can teach you that, but it's how can you show them that you can connect with people, that you can communicate, that you'll work hard, and then they'll teach you the finer points and details that they need you to know. So I love that you already made that connection with the dance because I was going to ask about that. Next question I have for you, you have a pretty nice position. You've had a lot of experience leading up to this, but the reality is you're nowhere close to retirement. So
No.
how do you grow still today? How do you stay motivated still today? What are some ways that you try to make sure that you don't grow apathetic and just complacent with where you're at now? What are some ways you do that, Taylor?
Yeah, so for me, I like to set short-term and long-term goals. So short-term, it might be, oh, I want to create a document to make it easier in the future. Maybe long-term, it's, I want, it could be something broad, like I want to have a meaningful impact that once I'm gone, people still remember what I did. So it's setting those goals that are both quick and easy and tangible and something that motivates me to get further down the line and continue on as I pursue my career or the project or whatever it is that I'm working on.
How often do you, I guess, set those, evaluate those? Is that a yearly thing? Is that you set them and then you come back 3 years later? How often are you looking at those?
Yeah, I would say I self-reflect a lot, and maybe it changes. Maybe it's like, no, what, that's not my goal anymore. Let me adjust or change it. Or maybe, because as I change as a person, my goals might adjust, or as my career changes or my responsibilities change, those goals might change as well. So I wouldn't say I sit down and dedicate time to think of my goals, but they're always sort of in the back of my mind, being evaluated and adjusted as needed.
Yeah, for sure. And I can attest, Taylor is someone very reflective. You can get that sense when you get to know her a little bit that she's definitely thinking about that. Another question that's really interesting, especially in the environment and the society we find ourselves in today, after kind of the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you manage a work-life balance? It's so easy to work from home. How do you find a balance between like, okay, I got to work, but I also want to have, a family life and a social life? How do you find that balance?
So for me, one of the easiest things I did was I was given an opportunity to have 2 cell phones, and I took that opportunity. So my work phone is for work. I rarely check it outside of work hours unless necessary, just to keep that balance. Obviously, if it's a big event or something's time crunch, I'll check it. And then I have my personal phone. That does not mean my coworkers can't text my personal phone, because they're my friends just as much as they are my coworkers. But that helps me physically keep it out of place. I try not to take it home. I might vent in the car, but then when I step in the door, I try to be like, hey, what are we doing for dinner? What TV show should we watch? And then vice versa. It's something that I think we all have to check and reflect again on ourselves to see what works for us. What works for me might not work for everybody else. So it's figuring out that balance for you.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Taylor, what do you think, in your position, how do you see the Black College Football Hall of Fame growing? How do you see the Classic weekend? How do you see that growing in the coming years?
I think as we grow, especially within our community here, we can feel the passion. And from talking to the schools that have come already to the Classic, I have not heard a bad thing. They want to come back and they're excited and they tell people. So I think it's like as the word spreads, people are interested, and we're finding our own place within who we are as a Classic. We're definitely not the same Classic that you might see in, New Orleans or somewhere else. We have our own niche and our own market that is unique to us, and we're finding that voice that works for us and making sure that everyone knows it and feels it when they come in, that we truly are creating this community amongst not only the people that are here from Canton, Ohio, or the community of HBCUs. We try to create everyone that comes together is one, and we're all united.
Yeah, for sure. I can speak as someone who's grown up locally. It does feel like that event, that weekend, is just getting bigger and bigger. It's getting more support. It's something that I think locally people are taking ownership of, and it's just a beautiful thing to see each year around Labor Day. I want to thank the students. They've asked some great questions. If there's any more,
Yes.
go ahead and throw them in. We've got a little bit more time, but as we start to think about getting towards the end of the program, I want to make sure we get a couple of questions in here for you, Taylor. Can you
Yep.
kind of just give us, you kind of talked about networking, but what would be your best piece of advice for students networking? Just your best networking advice that you might have.
Yes, so for me, the best networking, obviously, do your school. See if there's programs that you or organizations that you can be a part of. Like for myself, I'm a part of Women in Sports and Events. It's a national organization. They have a chapter here in Cleveland. And again, that's people in my industry. They have mentors and mentees. Maybe find that one person you connect to, whether it's me, Nathan, someone from your school, someone else that you feel like is your person that you can talk to about all things sports business and how to grow your career. Whether we might be the direct person that helps you or not, we probably know someone or someone else, whoever that person is that you pick, know someone that can help you. So don't feel like you're nagging anybody. I would say when you're trying to network, this is your life, your career. So take ownership and just sell yourself.
Yeah, for sure. It's your life, it's your career. And the reality is nobody's going to care about it more than you.
Yes.
So you have to take ownership of that, and you have to pursue those relationships. And unfortunately, at times you got to get used to hearing no. There might be people that just they're not able to help, or they overlook you. And if you can learn to accept that a little bit, but it continues to motivate you, I think you'll be in a great spot from a networking standpoint. Now, we implemented this in the fall. We're going to continue it. It's kind of a fun. I think it's fun. I think our guests enjoy it. Rapid fire questions for you. Some of them are kind of career based because we want to keep it before the snap themed, and some of them are more just kind of silly questions. But I'm going to throw them at you. I got 6 of them here.
Okay.
So make sure you got your quick answer here. Rapid fire. Number 1. LinkedIn, is it a great way to network or just another social media app?
Great way to network.
GPA on a resume, yes, never? What are your thoughts there?
I say don't put it on.
Social media accounts, public or private?
For me personally, private. But if you do like graphic design or photography where it might be a nice profile, public.
Okay. Jeans at work all day, every day, never, or casual Fridays?
All day, every day.
We can tell that Taylor likes to keep it casual.
Yes.
Coin toss. Are you going heads or tails?
Heads.
Why heads?
I don't know. It was my gut instinct, and I was talking about trusting your gut instinct.
That's true. I'm a tails person. Tails never fails. Last question. You score a touchdown. What's your go-to touchdown celebration?
So for me personally, I would either freeze and not do anything, or I would attempt something for the first time I've never done in my life and then hurt myself.
I thought with your dancing background, you'd have something really creative for us, but freezing.
No, I would, because I would feel the pressure of being like, people know I'm a dancer. So I'd either freeze or be like, let me try this amazing backflip and fall.
Well, thank you for enjoying that. That was fun. Last thing for you, Taylor. Can you just leave myself, all the students that have watched, again, thank you so much, students, for your questions. Can you leave everybody with just one piece of advice, life, career, whatever it may be, one piece of advice for everybody as we kind of wrap things up today?
Yeah, of course. Thank you again all for being here. I would say if you ever are debating if something is the right choice for you, if it's your only choice, take it. But, I would say even in a bad choice, you can find the positives and move forward, and that there's ways to grow in whatever you do.
Yeah, for sure. Great advice, Taylor. Thank you again for being a part of Before the Snap. Our students are thankful, our teachers, professors, they're thankful. Once again, Taylor Abbott, the Black College Football Hall of Fame manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thanks for being a part of the program. I want to encourage everyone that's watching, check us out on the other social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Check out the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Look for the Black College Football Hall of Fame. There's always great content coming out. If you're a fan of podcasts here at the Hall of Fame, we have the Mission Podcast you can subscribe to and tune into. Our friends and partners at the Village have Football Heaven as another podcast that is very interesting to listen to. And as far as Before the Snap goes, tune in next week. We're going to have a first next week on January 27th, same time at noon. We'll have 2 members of the Green Bay Packers organization with us. So we'll have 2 guests on the show with us next week. So tune in next week on the 27th to hear from them. Once again, thank you everybody for watching Before the Snap this week. So thankful that you guys were tuning in and asking such great questions. And we'll see everybody next week.